Okay. Hello, beautiful people. I hope you are having a wonderful day. I am creating a video around health coaching and sort of an introduction to what that means, what it might be able to help you with. And the lesson for today is connecting with your why. So, whenever I've done coaching with people, I first of all will help them set a goal for themselves, figure out what it is that they actually want, what that like version of health actually means for them, or if it's like some other aspect that they're working on, but what it is that they're working towards, and then connecting them with their why. So, why do they want that? Why is that something that they want to welcome into their life or perhaps get rid of in their life? And what is having that thing going to provide them with or help them feel that they don't currently have? So, in doing this, a lot of the times that people want to feel healthier is it can be for a myriad of reasons, really, but perhaps you have like pain that you want to get rid of, you just want to feel more alive. I know for myself personally, feeling like smarter, having my brain less like foggy and more clear-headed was a big aspect for me. Feeling more attractive, more confident, and able to go out of my way, put myself out in the world, perhaps attracting more wealth because of the confidence that I now have, going for that job that I never thought that I could get before. Feeling more powerful, more strength in my body, more power in the way that I communicate and the ways that I just put myself out. And just overall feeling happier, feeling a lot more like aligned with the choices that I am making, feeling really good about the things that I'm putting in my body, feeling really alive and awake when I get out of bed in the morning because I know that what I'm putting into my body is giving me energy rather than taking that energy from me and making me feel heavy or hungover the next day because I had like pizza for supper the night before. So I really just want to stress the importance of getting connected with that why. Whenever you are setting out on a goal of just being healthy, creating some kind of transformation for yourself, maybe you have allergies that you want to do some work around and figure out how to minimize that. Maybe you have medications that you're currently taking that you would like to wean yourself off of. Perhaps you just want to move your body around more, eat in a way that is more aligned for your own benefit and perhaps better for the environment as well. So, in order to just further exemplify the importance of the why, I wanted to tell you a little bit about my why and why health is so important to me. Because I know a lot of people that say they want health, but it's not like their top priority, or that my motivation has probably been a little bit different from some other people's. And I think that for me, it's just really important to connect with what that is for me, why I feel so driven to share this message, to help other people achieve a greater state of health for themselves, why I keep coming back to this aspect of health, even though I sometimes will step away from it, even though it's something that I have struggled with in my own path. It's just something that is very near and dear to my own heart and something that I would and do love to help people with, because not only do I see the results and see the glow from people afterwards, see how much more vibrant they are as a result of taking these steps and taking this action towards their health, but also just recognizing how it benefits me to know that I'm serving and acting in alignment with my own purpose, even though not everyone is going to agree with the things that I say, not everyone is going to resonate with the message that I have. Not everyone is going to take action on their health in the same ways that I do. And quite frankly, I'm okay with that. I don't need everyone to take action in those ways. I don't need everyone to just focus so completely on their health like I do, because that's not their purpose necessarily. That's not what drives them and what they feel passionate about. But for me, I do feel passionate about that. And I know that on a deeper level, at my core level, that I want to be an example of what is actually possible when we do fully embody our bodies as a temple and treat them as these powerful, magnificent, just like superhuman structures that can help us achieve anything that we want in life. And I know that some people, when they're starting out on their health or fitness journey, that they may only look at one aspect. So it could be their physical health, which is actually where I started out as well. I grew up with asthma, so my journey started off with this idea that I had in my head around wanting to just jog and improve my cardiovascular health. And it's funny because I had actually taken up, not like seriously, but just had started smoking marijuana at that time. I think I was like 13 years old, and was just recognizing how harmful even that felt for my lungs, and how much stress that I was putting on my lungs at that time. And so I made a decision. I remember it was in gym class one day. We were doing like a track circuit or whatever. And I had just decided to myself that I would much rather be able to run than I would have this experience of like smoking and fitting in with my friends or whatever it was at the time. Like I just made that commitment and that decision for myself that I would just rather be able to run. Like I would rather my body be able to function in the best way that it can. And so I took up this regimen or routine of exercising regularly. And even though I was still at that time taking puffers, and even though when I first started doing my jogs, I would often take my puffer before I went for the jog, because I had this idea in my head that just that I needed it. Like it was something that I needed to be able to breathe. But the more that I just stuck with that and sort of tested my beliefs, the less I actually started to need my puffers beforehand, and the less I needed them overall in my life, to the point where I, as I consider it now, have just completely cured myself of asthma. I haven't even filled a prescription for my puffers in I don't even know how long. It's been at least 5 years. I don't consider myself to be a person with asthma anymore, because I took the steps and did the research and created the life that I wanted for myself, which was a life without feeling like I needed something outside of myself to heal myself and to be like a fully functioning human. So that was one of the aspects that sort of drove me to dive into the more physical aspects of health. And then there was also the nutritional side of things. After an incident of needing to take prescription medicines, I just started noticing all of these incidences where my body wasn't able to handle certain foods in the same way that it had before. I noticed that dairy was very problematic for me. Even gluten started to be very problematic for me. And since that time, I've just tried different like elimination diets, different like detox diets that really helped me get in touch with and connect with my own body, recognizing which foods will create inflammation or different like stimulate like mucus in my lungs or different parts of my body, which foods will create skin irritations for me, which foods will just create more stress on my body in general. And some of this was based on research that I had done, different things that I had tried and tested, and other aspects of it was more intuitive. Just connecting with my own body, slowing down, recognizing what worked and what didn't. And when I was feeling the most tense, the most anxious, the most depressed, I had said for I don't even know how many years that I wanted to quit eating sugar because I recognized how much it influenced my hormone fluctuations, how like cranky and irritable I would be, how like almost depressed and suicidal I would feel sometimes after eating a lot of sugar or like smoking a lot of weed, just like that trifecta of really just not honoring my own body. And the more that I would sort of go back and forth of like setting that goal of like, okay, for 2 weeks, I'm just gonna do a clean diet, like no sugar, no inflammatory foods. And then after that 2 weeks, I would just kind of like go back and like, I don't know, it would be like a holiday or something. So I would just completely indulge again in all of the things that I said I was going to cut out. And so I really, from doing that bouncing back and forth aspect, I got to experience the contrast of like, holy shit, this is what my body feels like when I'm putting all of this junk into my body. Like, how did I not recognize this before? How was I doing this to my body every day and not feeling the effects of it? And when I think about it now, I know that it's not that I wasn't feeling the effects of it. It's that in a way I was desensitized to it. I wasn't aware of the underlying stress that I constantly had going in my body because in a small way that I was immune to it, but it's just more so that I was desensitized to it and was medicating that stress with like more sugar, more weed, more coffee, all of these different like addictive substances that I was just kind of putting in my body, in my temple to numb myself from the pain that these substances actually created for my body. In a lot of the research that I have done, I've recognized that the cravings that we have for these certain substances are actually a result of our bodies just trying to mitigate the effects of like withdrawal from that product. So say if it is gluten or dairy, that our body will actually have like withdrawal symptoms from that. So then we'll start to crave that food so that we don't experience that discomfort that comes from with the withdrawal. I don't know if this is ever something that you've experienced, after you've eaten a lot of sugar one day and then maybe the next day you're still like, you notice that you have more of a sweet tooth that day, or if you've eaten a lot of dairy one day and then you'll still kind of be like craving maybe some like cheesy, like comfort food goodness the next couple of days because your body is still processing that. And it does largely affect your like microbiome as well. So the bacteria that eat those certain foods will then begin to grow and populate, and then we'll send out signals to your brain of we want more of that thing because now there's more of us and we like want to eat more of that. So this is often where those sugar cravings will come from, and just because the yeast in your body will begin to like flourish and populate, and so it will send out those signals to your brain because the brain and the gut actually have a very strong connection. I think there actually are more neurons in your gut than there are in your brain. So yeah, your body will begin to like send out those signals and say, feed me, even though you're not necessarily hungry, you don't necessarily need more food, but it's just that stress, that like cortisol that your body is trying to mitigate the effects of. One of the biggest things that I really recognized in my own journey of health had to do with the emotional side of things as well. So what is the emotional aspect to the eating and the exercising that I am actually taking part of? I was bulimic for a number of years when I was in university and high school, probably for about 3 years. And so I developed a very interesting relationship with the food that I was eating. And while I was never, like, I would never consider myself to have been overweight, it did take a lot of effort for me to build a healthy relationship with food. And not even like necessarily the calorie counting or just, it was like that emotional aspect of eating. So recognizing that I was feeling a certain emotion, whether it was just stress or maybe anger or sadness, and how I would then begin to just like crave certain foods or want to drink eat sugar, like drink coffee, or just would numb my emotions with different foods. And I know for a lot of people that are trying to experience greater health in their lives or perhaps lose weight currently, that looking at that emotional side of things is going to be crucial to actually seeing that success that you're looking for. I also know that a lot of people, and maybe just speaking from my own perspective, that anytime that I've set a goal for myself, it's always been when those emotions arise that I didn't feel like at the time I had the tools to handle and deal with and process, that I would then fall off the wagon and begin smoking weed again or eating junk food again or just recreating that cycle because I didn't have the tools to process those emotions and handle them and express them in a healthy way for me. So learning how the emotional side of things affects our overall health played a very huge role for me in creating this overall picture of health. Connecting as well with the mental aspect, so the physical, emotional, and the mental. Being aware of the beliefs that I had. What were the stories that I was creating in my head? What were the judgments and the criticisms that I was telling myself based on what I was eating, whether or not I was exercising, what I should or should not be doing, where I was or was not taking action in my life? All of these aspects contributed to my own mental health, and I really began to just check in and recognize how important slowing down was, how important meditating was, and just analyzing the thoughts that were going on in my head and seeing them more as stories, not necessarily seeing them as truth every time, not seeing them as something that I had to buy into, because I noticed that the more I bought into those thoughts, the more I bought into that story, the heavier I would begin to feel. Anytime that I have done like a meditation retreat or a yoga retreat, just really connecting with that peace and that solitude and that calmness within myself allowed my body to experience significantly less stress, a significantly greater vibrancy and health. I just felt more alive, more awake, more inspired in my life. And I was able to focus more on, again, what it was I actually did want rather than what I didn't want. And then the most interesting aspect for me was how all of these different elements of health still didn't seem complete until I tied in the spiritual aspect of them. So perhaps this isn't something that everyone will experience on their own health journey, but for me, the more I began to clear out my body, clear out the emotions, allow them to just come naturally and express themselves, exercise regularly, and treat my body more as the temple that I believe that it is, the more I felt connected with my spiritual essence, that core self, that human that is within me, regardless of the body that I have, the thoughts that I'm thinking, that truth that is within me that directs me. It's my intuition. It's my higher self, my consciousness that connects me to the collection as well. Knowing that I'm acting in a way that is the most aligned with my values and just living in integrity and living honestly. And it is really just building that connection that has connected me the most with even speaking this truth to you today, being able to express myself in the way that I want to and that I feel is the most aligned and purposeful for me. Because I assure you, when I first started out on this journey, that I felt very afraid to be in front of a crowd. I felt very self-conscious. I felt very judgmental of myself and the way that I was showing up in the world, probably because I was having such a hard time breathing, and because I wasn't taking proper care of my body, was like working through an eating disorder and working through like all of these addictions and cravings and hormonal fluctuations, and I just felt like an unstable human. And so I wasn't showing up as powerfully and purposefully as I knew that I could. And that in and of itself was creating a lot more stress and tension for me in my life. So those are the 4 aspects that were really part of the reason of my why behind why I feel so passionately about health. I mean, these are my experiences that I had along my journey that helped me dive into what it was that I felt so passionate about and why this was so like personal and connected for me. But it was really these external circumstances that drove me to focus inwardly so much. Often in my life, I had looked at the people that were around me and seeing the condition of their health and seeing where they were in their lives was actually what drove me to just question if that was the only way or if that was even the best way, and if there was an alternative way. And how can I treat my body as the temple that I know that it is, so that I can show other people that there is another way that's possible, there is another option out there, and that we don't have to be slaves to the medical system. We don't have to be slaves to our mind or even our body sometimes, the beliefs that we have about ourselves. I remember when, I think this was actually about a year after I really started my fitness journey, I had a cousin who was diagnosed with a very rare type of, I can't remember now, I thought it was bone cancer, and he had passed away. So about a year after that, I had started smoking weed. Didn't really recognize at the time that it was almost a year after the date that he died that I had started this. And for a few months, just took on that way of numbing my own emotions. But I think in a lot of ways that it's actually really beautiful, because I know that it was his journey and his story that did in fact help me become so focused on my own health and take that initiative and journey and find that bravery within myself to step away from the friends that I had at the time, to decide for myself that I deserve to feel good every day. And I mean, as sad as it is that my cousin is not here with me today, that I can't share this message with him today, I do just feel so incredibly grateful that I do feel his essence and his story helped to propel me forward and helped me to want to share this message with other people. Because as I went through my own journey and did the research that I did and recognized how to actually, or how people have actually healed cancer outside of the medical system, I recognized that the food aspect has a lot to do with it. The emotional aspect has a lot to do with it. And I know that during his time of treatment that these things just weren't looked at. that they weren't acknowledged. It wasn't known at that time, or maybe it was known and was just suppressed by different like medical communities because I mean, I'm not going to get into that a whole lot. There's a lot of theories on that, but I also know that people who take a holistic approach on curing these diseases and curing the pains that they feel in their body, they have a lot more success. But the medical system, as I see it today, doesn't see that whole approach, doesn't always take that whole approach. Yeah, so I mean, even speaking and thinking of my grandmother as well, who had been diagnosed with dementia. And again, the research that I did after that connected the sugar that people will consume with that inflammation in the brain, and that people who have then switched to a keto diet, which completely eliminates sugar, sugar and carbs, that they will then begin to see a reversal of that, like Alzheimer's or dementia, see a reversal of those symptoms, and perhaps even stop them from going forward. Yet at the time, I know that no one was really looking at, again, her diet, what she was actually putting into her body, and how this was affecting her at the time. I've had a number of different like health incidences that I've just seen around me, the people like externally from me, that have influenced my own passion and desire to put this message out into the world. And just perhaps, I mean, if I can inspire one person to take another look at what they're actually putting in their body, take another look at how their actions might be affecting the other people around them, then I would consider this a success. And I would consider like myself just blessed for the opportunity to share this message, because it really has been something that I've wanted to put out for a while, but also felt very like heavy about it. I felt scared to put it out there. I felt that I could make people angry by putting it out there. I felt that people would be like feel like I'm judging them. And I just want to acknowledge and recognize that I don't judge or blame or think it's anyone's fault that the systems that we have are the way that they are. And I don't think it's anyone's fault that we aren't always taught about this holistic approach. However, I do believe that it is now our responsibility to take better care of our bodies, to take better care of and responsibility for how what we are doing to our bodies on a regular basis is actually affecting our health. If I go out into the world and say like go to a club and get really drunk and then like eat a bunch of junk food, and then I'm like just feeling really like crappy and shitty the next day, and so I get in like a fight with my partner or something, like that is something that I have to take responsibility for. And that is something that I have to acknowledge, that those behaviors, that stress on my body is now not only negatively affecting me, but it's also negatively affecting people around me. And it wasn't until I noticed from eliminating these habits from my system, from my daily usage and body, that I was truly able to recognize how much like stress and tension and agitation that there was in my body, how tense my muscles felt, how like hunched over and just like closed off I felt from the world because of the ways that I was just unconsciously abusing my body. But the more I began to flush those things from my body, drink a lot more water, just breathe, do like exercise and meditation and yoga, and just practice on opening my heart, opening my body, the more loving I was able to be towards other people in my life, the less I not only felt that stress, but the less I took that stress out on other people. And I just want to make mention as well that you may be sitting here thinking like, oh, I'm not one of those people that takes my stress out on other people. Like, I'm not one of those people that like I can drink all night and party all day and still like be a happy person the next day. Um, but on a subtle level, your body is still vibrating that energy of tension, that energy of stress. And even though you may not directly say something to someone else, you still have that closed off energy. And I can't say this is true for anyone or everyone, but maybe just for yourself, notice that if you do go out the next day, I mean, anyone who's ever been hung over, that you would recognize and feel in yourself just that heaviness and how closed off you do feel, rather than the light that you sometimes bring to a relationship or like a conversation when you're just feeling like completely happy and energized and like the world is your oyster and it's just that you want to give that open heart feeling. Yeah. So I just invite you to connect with that, because sometimes we think that we're not doing these things or that these things don't actually affect us, or maybe we're more immune to them, or we just don't notice because our egos want us to not notice. They don't like it when we start to change things. They don't like it when we are like changing our habits and doing these things that are initially, uncomfortable. Um, because our body wants comfort. It seeks comfort. It wants that which is familiar so that we can stay where we are. But that is not where the most growth is, and that's not where the greatest light is. And so, connecting with our why can be such a powerful tool for helping us stay on track and helping us move forward, even on those days when we're just really craving something sweet or really wanting to stay home because it's like snowy out and I don't want to go for a walk today. But remembering that it's not just us that we're doing this for, remembering and being aware of who else can be affected by my health. What are the lessons that I am able to teach other people, and how is the energy that I'm bringing into the world going to be different because I am committed to the transformation of health that I want to experience in my life and that I know I'm worthy of and deserving of. One of the most beautiful aspects that I like to work on with people is this aspect of failure, or helping them overcome these obstacles that they may have faced in the past. So what was it that didn't work for you before that has maybe held you back from wanting to try again? I know for myself, when I was trying to quit eating sugar, the number of times that I had gone back and forth and just like how judgmental and critical of myself I had been and how much I felt like a failure just made me not even want to try again. It like made me feel like it was impossible. But I also know that that's not true. And that sometimes it just takes a good challenge, a good support system, and really just analyzing and being committed to making that decision within myself to create the life that I want. And connecting with that why has been one of the most beneficial things for me, because now I know that by putting this message out in the world, by offering to help other people, that now maybe there's someone else in the world that isn't going to lose their cousin or their grandmother, or someone else that is very important to them, because they have the proper information, they'll have the proper tools, they'll have the support that they need to truly work on what it is that they are worthy and deserving of for themselves and for others. So I do thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this message and for just really acknowledging how important and beautiful this is. If there's anyone out there who would like to experience a coaching session and just really see and acknowledge what kind of work and what kind of transformations can be achieved within them, then please reach out. Please send me a message. I would be happy to have a conversation with you just to see if us working together would even be beneficial for you. That would be a true gift for me, and I would love the opportunity to connect with you as well. So again, thank you for listening. And I hope that you all found something inspiring and had some sort of insight from listening to this today. Thank you very much, and I hope you all have a beautiful day.